So, hello everybody, how are you today? This is Luca from Jonathan Cooperativa Sociale, and today we are here with Sara.
Hello everyone.
I don't know if you had the chance to take a look at the preview of this conversation today, but today we are going to talk about sustainability in clothing. But before doing so, let me just check if everything is okay with the live streaming so that we can start talking in detail about our topic today. Let's see. Okay, so we are live stream. Okay, perfect. Great.
Everything is now.
Yeah. And it seems everything is going good, so good. Very nice. So welcome, and I'm very grateful for you for being here today, and for sure, thanks for joining us today. And today we are going to talk about sustainability in clothing, and we will be doing this with Sara from VIC, and we will try to find the link between the European project Wearable Best Dressed Sustainably with VIC. So we will try to see why we are here today, actually. Right, Sara?
Yes, exactly. You're
Exactly.
Wonderful, Luca. I know you have a lot of questions for me, so I look forward.
Yes. But before going there, I would like to say to our viewers that if they want, they can send us some comments and questions, and maybe at the end of the interview, we will reply to these questions. And also Sara offered to reply to the question also after the interview. So feel free to comment on what we are saying today and enjoy this conversation. So Wearable project, and the entire name is Wearable Best Dressed Sustainably, is a European project, a key action to a strategic partnerships co-funded by the Erasmus Plus program of the European Union. And it involves 4 different countries. There are Austria, Poland, Lithuania, and Italy. And the 2 main objectives of this project are, the first one is to raise the awareness of young people about the usage of plastic in clothing. And we want them to be more involved in this kind of information. And the second one is to develop and provide more sustainable alternatives, ways to think about clothing and to dealing with fashion in general. So these are the 2 main objectives of the project. And right now we are at the initial stages of this European project. And in this first part, every national partner has to come up with the state of the art of sustainability in clothing on a national level. And this is the reason why we are here today. So in this context, this conversation is completely nestled and organized. So I would like to give the floor to Sara. So just tell us what VIC is, what are the reasons why you decided to establish this business, and also it's very curious, the name, very important choice. So if you can give us some ideas about the reason why the name is like this. So thank you very much.
Yeah, sure. Thanks to you, Luca, and thanks for the European project to involve us in this beautiful project. I believe it's super important, of course. About especially today, it's key to spreading awareness about what's happening in the world of fashion, and as you mentioned, also in the usage of plastic in fashion. And we will see it's a big problem. And the name is maybe better understood by English speakers with the acronym VIC. So it's actually an acronym, and it's similar to VIP, very important person. So we wanted to use this ironic name, very important choice, so just to remind people that every choice they do is very important. In fact,
nice.
we make every choice count. That's because even if it's a small choice that you're doing today about your wardrobe, it still counts because it's a drop, but we are a lot of drops. So it's important, even if it's a small choice, it's important for the collective action that you are contributing to.
Very nice. So it means that every choice that we are making is actually having an impact also on the planet itself. So it's like being more related to the world we live in, right?
Yes, exactly. Especially because we are working in a field that is fashion, and we know that fashion is not like a primary necessity, like let's say food or sleeping, you know, or health. So we are really aware about that. But we also know that somehow people, I mean, especially women, but also men, they cannot retain from shopping. I mean, we are born with the shopping, you know, we do shopping anyway. So because we do it anyway, it's better that we do it for a reason, and also we make it contributing to what are our values and what we believe. So for example, if we let's say we just saw the spilling in the Galapagos, the spilling in the Galapagos was the Chinese people.
Okay, right.
Anyway, in the Mauritius happening, and we saw it, and that really touched us, and you know, as an environmental calamity, then we should connect it to our daily choices, also in the shopping, in our food, and in our shopping, and in our lifestyle in general, in the way we move ourselves, so in the transportation as well.
Yeah. So it's like a holistic concept, we can say. It's not only in
Yes,
clothing,
I mean,
but in general, every choice.
Yes, exactly. Every choice counts, and we, of course, contribute for the part that is related to fashion, especially because you can't do everything. But we are very aware that it's in the context of many other actions.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And so, and the reason behind the decision to establish the company itself, I mean, I understand the reason why the name is very, very particular, let's say, but also about the reason why you decided to actually create something.
Yes, well, just another couple of words about the name, because you asked me, and it's very particular. It came from a collective action, that one as well. So when we were building our startup, the name initially was completely different, and really something I cannot recognize anymore if I think about it back then. So what we decided to include all of our supporters at the time and followers, and we had call it the name bombing. So we had we offered an aperitivo, like a glass of wine, you know, together, and we had this aperitivo bombing. So we everybody would just brainstorm, a free brainstorm of names, and then based on that we elaborated on what came out of that evening, and then we had this collective name. So that's also something we are proud of. I never tell this story actually, but it's something nice to know that it goes also in the direction why we created this company. So the idea came to us. I mean, I am the founder, so I am the starter of the project. Then I'm also co-founder legally, because of course there are other people in the team together with me. But the idea came to me is precisely because I was living abroad. So I was lucky enough to live abroad for 2 years during my master's degree, and I was living in Denmark, and there. Yes, and there were a lot of systems where you could swap clothing, borrow clothing, or let's say sustainability also for fashion brands was much forward than it was in Italy, and it was very much. So for me, coming back to my country, because I wanted to contribute to something that I felt really important, then I decided to, you know, start this company, because there is a need of spreading more awareness about what sustainable fashion is, and also to work within the industry to make it more sustainable. And that's what we're doing also with our.
Yes, it's very nice. Also because it's very nice when you see an idea that becomes reality, and it's very nice, very nice. And I wanted to ask you, but what do you think about fast fashion? I mean, because recently we have seen that fast fashion has taken over, let's say. But what kind of idea did you take out of it? I mean, why are we so, let's say, dependent on the fast fashion, and what we don't see about fast fashion?
Yes. Well, the reason why we're so dependent on fast fashion, I think it's apparent to everyone. So first reason is because it's cheap, and we know that we like to have great findings and to pay less for stuff. If it's offered to us, everybody wants a bargain.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to spend as less money as possible. Either they want or either they can't afford differently. And then this is the very first reason, and we cannot unsee that. But the problem is that that price doesn't include the environmental and the social price of the clothing, because the fast fashion actually entails what is known by the term modern slavery, which is exactly slaves, but it's kind of accepted. But it's because people don't want to see that, you know, it's so far away from us. But that's something to be really aware of. And also the environmental costs are not inside that price, because, for example, a lot of toxic materials and a lot of toxic chemicals are used on the clothing and discharged in the environment. They goes on our skin and the skin of the people who wear the clothes, of course, and also they go. They create problems to the health of the workers, and also they go in the water system, and the water system is just in the planet, you know, so it's for everyone, the water, the land. So there is a lot of hidden costs in the fast fashion, but there are a lot of docu-film that I can recommend. One of them is The True Cost, that many people know about it, so they can watch this documentary movie and they can learn a lot about what's happening in the manufacturer, like in the places where this fast fashion is produced. But the reason why it became so popular is the price, and then it's because it's a commodity. It's easy to access. So if you have a tour in, I mean, I'm old enough to remember my city, my hometown when I was little. So when I was a kid, I could walk, and there was full of little boutiques and little shops, and now nothing is there, you know. And now everything is standardized shops. So we have the same shops in every city, even the small ones. And then, of course, the shopping online has grown. So basically, it's so spread, it's so popular because it's just there for people, you know. And when people go out of their house, that's what they see. So that's what they buy.
Yeah. And maybe a lot of people just think about the price as a representation of the value of the clothes, but actually it's not. Not only the inner value, because you think that just because you can get a t-shirt for 2 or 3 euros, it means that is money worth it, right?
Well, you know, actually right now the recent surveys say that 41% of the consumers in Europe, so about less than a half, are value driven. Value driven means that they look for the best price, and for another 41, so the other half almost, is purpose driven. So purpose driven, it means that they look for the meaning of that piece of clothing. So connecting to where I was saying before, we are not shopping because we need something. We are shopping fashion because we want it to represent us somehow. So it's very important that this representation and this symbolic representation, it also speaks for our values. So the percentage of people that are purpose driven in their purchases is just growing and growing and growing. And what you're saying about the matching between value and price is actually something we need a lot of awareness of, and also we need a lot of information about. So one day I was invited to have to speak to a new generation, like it was a university course, very in the beginning year, and so they were very young, and they were studying not sustainable fashion, but something that has to do with fashion and luxury management. So it's something that really has to do with value, you know, with high prices and high costs. And then we had a conversation. Of course, I talked about VIC, I talked about our business models, our innovations. So we are bringing a lot of new things to the market. And then there was a conversation with one guy, because I asked to them. So we have 2 scarves. One is from a luxury brand that everybody knows, the scarf from a really well-known luxury brand, and it costs around, let's say, 1,000 euros. And then we have another scarf that is artisanally made in Italy. It's made with non-toxic dye, It's made actually with plant dye, so it was colored with plants, no chemicals involved. And these plants were also grown in Italy organically by the same person who did this, blah, 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 okay? So how much do you think, which one do you think is the most valuable? Because also the other scarf, the made in Italy one, was also painted by hand, not only with non-toxic dyes, but also painted by hand. So it took a lot of time for the artisan to do this work that was actually a work of art and one of a piece. The other one from the well-known brand is just a piece that is reproduced thousands of times because it's just printed in a way that is, of course, more pollutant than what a natural plant could be. So, and then we had this conversation, and and of course, we all know that the market price is higher for the luxury brand. We know that, right? So the luxury brand will have a higher price. But then what about the value? So would the value be more in the artisanal one that contains all the history or the tradition of this technique and all the time that this person took, all of her education, all of her passion to do this? Or would the value be more in the one that is just printed and sold to Chinese and Russians all over the world,
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Because that's the market, that's the luxury market. It's not because I have anything against these people, but it's just to say that there's really no match right now in the fashion industry for between value and price, and we need to make game this match.
Yeah, that's right. Also, I studied economics in the past, and I know exactly that there is this mismatch between price and value, because usually they should be the same, but based on how the market goes, actually they differ. So this is the reason why I totally agree on what you were saying before. So there should be there should be more forces that get the price and the value together and make them the same. Actually, I agree.
And at least, and again, as you are saying, the market is us in the end. So the market is the consumer. The market is not the producers. The market is the people who buy, not the people who sell. So the power is again in the power of the choices of the people who buy. That is us. So by saying that, we just know that, for example, in the example of the scarf we just said, the luxury brand, the value, a lot of that value of the high price is connected to the brand value. So this is a brand. This is a brand that has existed for 200 years, and it's a historic brand. So of course it costs a lot because it has boutique in Milan, and this is a value. Okay, I understand this is a value because indeed it is to have a company that's lasting 200 years, and it's a value. I understand that's a brand, but we have to consider today what are our values of the consumer, especially for the next generation. So what are the values that we want to redefine for ourselves and for our shopping choices? Because maybe that was a value until 50 years ago, but not now.
Now, what changed?
Well, it changed a lot because 20, 30 years ago, and if in the years of baby booming and the booming of the economy, if we think of the precedent generation, the two generations before ours, before the millennials, there were no problems about the environment, or at least nobody was talking about it. So this has definitely changed from the moment when the first movie, one of the most famous movie made by Al Gore. I don't know if you know this. An Inconvenient Truth. It was called An Inconvenient Truth. That's also a good documentary. It's a bit oldish though, because it was
maybe Sarah, we can write all these documentaries that you are suggesting somewhere so that people that are watching us can go and search and enjoy them. Maybe later after the interview we can just put some names in the comments so that they can. To your
question, what changed. So when that documentary came out, it was really the moment where, especially for Americans, and we know that Americans compose a great deal of the market of the market. So at least for them, it was a big change in people awareness about what was happening to the land, to the planet. So that was the first thing that changed, because if you think back then, nobody was talking about climate change, about polar bears, about microplastics in the ocean, about you know, even the viruses that we just had right now, the pandemic, and is still going on. We know that it's aggravated somehow by the environmental crisis, you know, for many. So there was not, for example, climate immigrants. That was not a problem, you know, back then. So of course, right now we live in a completely different situation that we cannot ignore what is happening at our own future. And Greta Thunberg is saying this all the time, right? I think that, I mean, if we have to just pick one, and then of course there are a lot of other changes, cultural changes and trend changes, and also we can talk about the disruption of the internet technology and online shopping. I mean, we can talk about everything tonight, you know, there is a lot of factors that goes into that. But if we just have to pick one, and you ask me why, what changed, I mean, it's changing that the world is disappearing beyond our feet, you know, so that's a pretty... I mean, it's cautious ahead.
Yes, probably now we are more than ever before forced to see that the planet is us. Because in the past, we saw the planet as something that was completely detached from us. But now we are seeing that what we do on a daily basis is actually having an impact on the planet, and the planet is us. So it's probably we are becoming more aware of it, probably because we...
Yeah, what you're saying, exactly. And actually the day when we are having this interview, it's just a couple of days later than the Earth Overshoot Day. So we just celebrated we just had last week this date that just signs in the year. So it says that in this day, all the resources on the planet were just consumed. And right now we are going over these resources just to live. So and every year we have this day. And again, you know, 30 years ago, there was nothing like that because we didn't need this. So now it's totally different.
Yes, paradoxically, it seems like if we hadn't go that far in polluting the environment, probably right now we wouldn't be that aware that we need to change something. So I
agree with you, but maybe if we wouldn't have gone that far, then we would be better, much better right now.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And change everything.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I understand. I see your point. So I wanted to ask you, so now that we are witnessing all these sustainable trends and brands and companies, so based on what we have been saying so far, it means that it is not a passing phenomenon. What do you think about it?
Yeah, definitely, it's not gonna. It's not a fad. It's not a fad, as they say. So it's not just a trend. I mean, lately, especially after the pandemic, the conversation in the fashion industry has become more and more mainstream about what sustainable production is, especially because also, specifically in Europe, we have a lot of effort for going towards circular economy and more circular economic models, and that entails a lot of manufacture as well and a lot of fashion. So we are entering a world where this conversation is becoming mainstream, but be aware that when something becomes mainstream, usually it loses the original meaning of what sustainability is. So
that's true.
Yeah, so again, I mean, every one of us needs to be a little bit of a critic, you know, of what's happening and analyzing the situation and reading from themselves. So just tell you this, you know, there is a huge magazine, like fashion magazine, Vogue and Elle, and this very big fashion magazine. And the publisher, there is a big publisher, it's called Condé Nast, and everybody knows that. I believe, I suppose. Basically, they came out this year, 2020, with a glossary about all the terms used in sustainable fashion. So what does this mean? What does this acronym mean? Why is material sustainable? Blah, blah, blah. So they came out this year in 2020, and they came out with this because actually one of the problems about sustainability is that, one, there is no legal definition of it. So there is no law that can be based upon sustainability, because nobody knows what this is actually, and everybody has a different conception about it. And the second thing is that even in the industry, even in the mainstream, like most of people ignore a lot of terms around sustainability and what that actually means. So this tells a lot about the trend, you know. So whether it's a trend or not, no, I believe it's going to last, because the planet, I mean, we still need to be on this planet if we want to be alive. But how will the face that this sustainability will have for fashion industry, and I'm thinking about, of course, the big fashion industry, so the fast fashion we were talking about, we don't know yet what this will look like in the future. If it will be really sustainable, we only have the answer in the future.
Yeah, that's true. So you're saying that actually we should not focusing, for sure we shouldn't, but actually it happens, we should not focusing on the trend, but on the meaning and the purpose of what we are doing. So
yes, exactly.
Even in your activity of, exactly. So even in your activity of training people, you are training not what they have to do, but the way they have to think in order to properly act.
Yes, I mean, this is a very very important point. I can say this because the only thing is really to connect with the, you know, defining your values and connect it to your values. Sustainability means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, and of course, as a company, as a startup, we do have our own values related to sustainability. So for example, we prefer to support small projects and local projects rather than bigger and global brands. And that's to us, it's intuitive, you know, because I mean, you were talking about economy, you know, you studied economy, and everybody, I studied economy as well, and one of the subjects, you know, and we all know that there is this thing, it's called scale economy. So when you produce a lot of something, you just get better cost, you get better product, your product looks better than the others and the competition. Okay, so we are trained to think this, but then we have a lot of examples that when we apply this theory, which is just a theory, it's an economic theory, to reality, then we had, for example, you know, in agriculture, then we had ecosystem disruption, because we can't have a monocultivar in just one type of food, you know, then it goes just, and then we don't have any land anymore, so it's not productive anymore. So, and then when we saw this applied to economies of entire countries, then we saw that then when this one thing went wrong, let's say, for example, even Italy, you know, we have an economy based on tourism. This year, tourism was, of course, not as every other year.
Collapsed,
and you know how many problems we're having, right? So this is just a theory that focusing on one thing will make the thing better, but this is an economic theory, and maybe we have to rediscuss it now, because rather, if we have more variety, like we have in nature, more biodiversity, and we have more ecosystems working together, that is going to be sustainable, because that is going to be resilient.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So, Sarah, I would like now to focus and move on, focusing on exactly your activity. So, in your job, so you as VIC, you promote sustainable trends, and as we are trying to give a clear picture of the state of the art of the sustainability in clothing in Italy, I would like you to mention 2-3 good practices of new brands that are emerging, and that you would like to share with us, just to give us new examples of more sustainable companies.
Yes, I mean, there is a lot, and actually, if people follow us on Instagram especially, they will see almost every day we talk about this. But one, for example, one is the one I'm wearing right now. I mean, I'm talking, and you know, I walk the talk, This is a necklace from a brand. This is a necklace from an artisan. It's from Italy. So this is a product which is entirely made in Italy, entirely handmade, and entirely made of upcycled materials. So it means that this was or would have been trash, but then it has been reconditioned. It has been handmade with some handwork. So no chemicals in the production, no machinery, no energy, no waste, no water usage. And then this also doesn't time any waste, because this can be completely undone, and it becomes again recyclable in each part of it. So we have a part of cotton that can be regenerated into new yarn or composted in the soil, and then we have another part of aluminium, which is a material which is it has a cycle of recyclability, which is one of the most recyclable materials in the world. So this is
maybe we can,
and this is an artisan we have been knowing for 3 years, and in the beginning it was a very small project, so just also the designs were very simple, and she was just doing it as a hobby, you know, like everybody starts to do this thing, and then she grew her brand, and also she had the possibility to come to Milan and also to be involved with the Fashion Week, so it's a very prestigious network of people, and then she got some new commercial from that, and also that means that the value of her product and then their price went higher, but that's correct, because she needed to pay her rent, you know. So I mean, somehow this made her activity more sustainable. And then we had the other, I'm not wearing because I'm talking about bags and other things, but other fashion accessories. We are now, for example, helping to go abroad to international markets where there is more. The German market, for example, is much more developed than the Italian ones in terms of demand for sustainable products. So now, especially in these times where we're talking, we are working on this project to bring these small brands all together to the German market, of course, using online shopping.
Great. It's very nice, and it's very nice to hear that even though we are not that active like some other markets, we are trying to go there. So we are trying to reach some results also in Italy, and this is the reason why we are conducting this research, because we wanted to see, okay, we want young people to be more aware about plastic in clothing, but let's see and let's take a look at what actually Italy has to offer right now. This is the reason why we are doing this, right? And I wanted to ask you, related to this, I know that you have a kind of rental service about clothes.
Yes,
is that
sure.
True?
That was one of our first initiatives, just to get the sustainable fashion out to the people. So one of the barriers for accessing sustainable fashion was that it is more expensive than what we are used to, unfortunately, because as we said, fast fashion doesn't reflect the real price of the garments. But anyway, we're used to that price. So how can you have people to use more sustainable fashion? So through renting, for example, you can have the same garments, the same sustainable garments, but for a lower price, because you don't pay for the garment, but just pay for the use of it, for wearing it. And this is also very sustainable practice, because then you would have your basic wardrobe, but then for a special occasion or for when you want something different, you know, for when you want to wear something new, you would just have the novelty, so the novelty piece in your wardrobe, and then you give it back so other people can use it. And of course, all the clothing is sanitized properly with the proper technology, ozone technology, and so there is no issue about that. We've always done this, and it's also washed ecologically, so in a way that is biodegradable soaps and ecological washing. So that is a very nice practice, also for lowering the impact of your wardrobe on the environment.
Yes, definitely it is. But let me ask you something. I think it's a very nice initiative, but I wanted to ask you how popular it is.
The renting has some barriers. So we have to be aware that, for example, if our logistics is in Italy, then we're gonna ship our stuff because it's an online service. So we're gonna ship it, and we're gonna ship it in Italy. We are not going to ship it very much far away. First of all, because we don't want to higher to increase our CO2 impact with that. But even if you consider the shipping, we made the calculation that if you use the renting service, you still save about 5,000 CO2 for each use of the rental. Because of course, you don't have to produce that garment, and then you don't have to, again, after the use, we always have to think of products not in a linear way, but in a circular way. So we always have to think that we need all the resources to produce them, the production per se, the transportation, the market transportation in the shops or the online or the warehouses, and then we need to get garments what happens after you use them, So we need to close the cycle. So of course, if you use rental, you just cut out all this cycle entirely. So even if we ship back and forth, it is still just a small part, because of the entire chain of production. You just have a small tiny bit, which is the shipment back and forth with the, but you do it a lot of times for just one item. So you're going to save a lot of CO2 for that. But
so this is how this initiative.
Yes. So, but I said, so we have this logistics barrier, which is we're working in Italy, and in Italy is not that popular, especially because we are not working with high-end brands, but we are only working with supporting and promoting sustainable brands, which are emerging, they don't know about these brands. And so it is not the object of desire, for the people. And so it's very difficult to, for the people, first of all, to get used to the idea that they can use a cloth and then give it back. And especially in the Italian market, Italians are very attached to ownership, but that doesn't happen in other markets. Let's say in German market, in Nordic countries market, when I say market, I mean cultures, they have much of a common group culture. And so they're also used to share things and to, they're just used to it, even from the kindergarten,
to swap also.
Swap things, but also the mindset is much more community-based rather than individual-based. And that's also what we have in Italy. We are a mindset which is individual-based. That's what they teach in school, and so people grow up like that. And so the sharing is still very new, but we saw this also for the cars, even in Italy, the car sharing took about 20 years to come to Italy after it was introduced to the US and to other Nordic countries' markets. So we need just to be patient with that, because eventually this trend will come also to Italy, But yes, it's not that popular, but still it's curious. So people are still curious about that. People want to know, oh, how is that? How is that I can use a garment? And then actually we have some aficionados. So we have a few loyal customers that they come back and they say, hey, I have this special occasion. What do you have to offer to me? Because after they try, they understand the benefit. They understand that it's exactly the same thing as owning the garment, except that you save a lot of money, and also you save a lot of space in your wardrobe, because you don't need to just have it there all of your life, So
exactly.
After people try it, they get the cool part of it. So they want to do more of it. But before trying, it's like a new thing, It's like swimming in cold waters. They're not sure if they like.
Yeah. Exactly. I think that at the end of the day, the hardest part is just to break the initial highs that the people have towards this kind of initiatives. And once done this part, then people can just relax and say, okay, it's okay to rent a clothes. There is no problem.
But there are very successful businesses abroad that do renting. They have extraordinary amounts of turnover every year. They have extraordinary number of clients. It's really something that has to do with Italian culture. I would say that even in Spain, we started in 2017 with this service, so 3 years ago, and it was already was too early. Okay, it's too avant-garde for Italian market. But in the last after we started, after 2 years after we started, so in 2019, last year and this year, we saw in Spain, for example, a lot of similar concepts were born and were growing. And now another similar concept is coming is becoming very big in Berlin. You know, then we have London, then we have, of course, France. I mean, it's really, even in Austria, there is this company doing that. And we know these people because, of course, we are doing, I mean, we are colleagues, we can say, okay? So we know what's happening in this market. And then there are also some other renting companies doing in Italy, but they don't have the focus on solely sustainable outfits. So of course it's again different than what's happening for us.
Yes, I understand. It's very interesting. It's very interesting also the fact that different trends for different cultures. So it's something that we are not probably aware of, but it's a reality.
Yes,
because if you want
culture, for example, in Asia, in China, in Korea, they use it a lot because every person working in the city, they have a very small wardrobes, very tiny home, and they just want to save space, and it's convenient. So, I mean, I didn't mention, we have to think that the world is big, and we need to find, of course, what also can adapt to the culture. And I believe that that's the real innovation. That's also why we are not boosting this service, this renting service, because if we want to bring innovation, sustainable innovation in our country for the future generation, we need also to work with what we find in our country. So why, I mean, if the culture is not that good, for this, why should we force this? We are there, and we're just waiting for people, to come and to experiment and to be curious, but we are working on many other aspects of, for example, like this interview spreading awareness and creating educational programs and creating events and involving people and doing special sales, for sustainable products, also promoting and doing temporary store, concept stores. So we are doing all that we can do that also can talk with the culture of the country.
Yeah, and also I like what you said, because I think that by forcing people, you're not actually achieving the real goal. That is changing the mindset, not the action.
Yeah,
because
you're right.
If you persuade someone to do something, maybe once he will say, yes, I will try. But if you don't work on the mindset that has to be changed, then you end up with no real achievement on that.
Yes,
so I like what you're saying.
Achievement, so we want to work on the mindset, as you said.
Yeah, wow, that's right. Good. And I wanted to ask you something. So we said that this kind of good practices are now a reality in Italy. So, why do you think that people should go for this kind of initiatives, and why people should be more responsible in general? So, I mean, if you had someone to persuade about the sustainability and the utility of the sustainability, what would you say?
Well, of course, it depends on who I'm talking to. You are asking me to persuade somebody.
For example, me. Imagine that you're talking to me.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say the general public. I mean, a guy.
Yeah.
How can I persuade a guy about the utility of sustainable fashion? Well, first of all, we need to persuade him about the utility of fashion.
That's right.
Then we can go into the sustainability part of it. No, but anyway, I think there are, as I told you, you can take these things from a few different angles. But of course, a lot of us, they just think about, they don't look so much about on the future of the planet, so they're more focused on the return today. So if they look at the return today, what they can afford, then blah, 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 they would just go to fast fashion or to whatever the market is offering, without thinking about it. But if there's something, like if we want to create this connection between the value and the price of the things, again, one thing that we could really do, and I would really use to persuade maybe Luca, as you said, is I would ask you to try to make something. So do you want to buy a t-shirt? Do you like a t-shirt? It costs 30 euros. You like that t-shirt? You think the price is good? Okay. So now just try, pretend you're a designer and pretend to make this t-shirt. Okay. So go and do all the research or the design and choose the textile and decide on all the decision you have to make for making the t-shirt, you know, and really inform yourselves, like just pretend to be a designer, or you can even sew it in your home if you want, or you can even learn to sew or ask a CEO to do for that, you know, to ask to help you with that. But just investigate a bit more on what's the process, on what the process has been to create that t-shirt, that final object, and then you will tell me if 30 euros is enough. You will value your own time, even just your own time, you know, even just without taking into consideration all the cost of transportation, cost of material and everything. And then you will tell me that cost is enough, you know, and the value is enough. So I would say that this is something that people can really do. Let's try to make more things, like try to get involved into processes, try to ask more, try to be in the part of the producer, because, you know, everybody wants to spend less money as possible. Everybody wants to pay 5 euros for the t-shirt, as we said, but then they want their hourly wage to be higher. So why does your hourly wage to be higher and the one of the woman who sewed this in Bangladesh
should be the same?
Starve and actually, I mean, this is real stories. This is real stories of women just starving to death. They just die because they can't afford food in the end of the day after having worked for 14 hours. I mean, this is just scary, guys. Okay, so this is not something that we can not think about anymore, you know? So try to do something yourself, try to be involved. As you were saying before this conversation, we were talking about dieting and cooking, you know, and it takes a lot of effort to cook, and you know that. But when you know that, then somehow you appreciate more the food when you go to a restaurant, because you know that it takes a lot of effort to cook. Or we appreciate
that's true.
You appreciate more when your mom or somebody else is cooking for you, because you know that took a lot of time and effort.
And the efforts. Yeah.
And so you're more aware of the value of it. So if we want to recreate this match between the value and price, and really to create a long-lasting mindset change, I would say to people, get your hand dirty.
I really like this kind of approach, because usually we don't do that, but it's not that difficult to do it. But you just have to think that just because you want a t-shirt, you can also study what's behind the t-shirt you want to buy. I think it is a good approach. Also a good suggestion for all the people that are watching us today. So Sara is saying, if you want something, just go and research, and then you will see that the price is not really equal to the value. And then you will realize.
And try to make, I mean, not only reading articles and being in the theoretical part, I would really say get your hands more dirty and try. Not because I want to, I mean, not everybody needs to do everything, okay? So of course you will still buy the t-shirt, but I'm just taking it as an example that if you want a practical tour or something if you ask me, you know, what is something very practical I could do, I wouldn't say, just buy everything secondhand, because that's not even always the answer. You know, there's a lot of problems also related to that market. So there is not just one answer, but I would just say, okay, so let's try to get your hand dirty. So try to see what actually takes to get to that thing that you see and want.
Wow. Thank you, because I think it is a good point. Also because it can be very easily implemented in our everyday lives, because you just have to be focused on what you want to buy and then just go through the entire process. Wow, thank you very much, because I think it is a very good suggestion.
Thank
also
you.
Because and the last question that I wanted to ask you it was exactly about this. So what kind of what can we say to our viewers and listeners about how can they start being more aware in their daily lives. So you have just given a suggestion about something related to bind stuff. Do you have something more to share?
Yes,
because
I think
after, because after this conversation, I would like people just to go home with some practical stuff, you know, because we can talk about abstract stuff and wow, it's amazing. But at some point we need to say, okay, so what should I do?
yes. So I think, I mean, again, there is a lot of choices you can do. For example, apart from this thing of trying to be the maker, that is, I think it's very practical, but I mean, it requires a bit of effort. If you want just a quick rule, then you can decide to focus on something. So let's say you want to focus on the materials. Okay, so you decided to ban certain materials from your next purchases. And the materials you have to ban are polyester, everything in polyester, and natural cotton, anything in natural cotton. You have to ban those two because those two are the most pollutants to the environment, and also the ones that have, especially cotton, again, non-ethical supply chains. So you can decide to do this, and then if you can't have traditional natural cotton, what can you have instead? Then you will need to look for all the innovative materials like the viscose coming from trees, you know, and from beech wood and from other kind of natural renewable materials. Then you have also the organic cotton if you want, or you need to have more innovative materials. And the polyester, for example, you should ban because that is just giving to the environment, when you wash it, is shredding microplastics. And then we don't know this, but it has been calculated that every year in a human body, we ingest about 50,000 pieces, micro pieces of plastic, okay? And that's 50, a lot through our veins, going through our system, you know? So, and then we wonder, oh, why am I inflamed? Or, you know, why do I have headache? Why am I not out of energy? Why do I get sick? I mean, we do live in a polluted environment. And so that's also one big link with fashion and microplastics. Of course, that's not the only thing, because there are also cosmetics that goes into these and other categories, but fashion is one of these. So you could, for example, decide to focus on material and ban these two materials. And that's just something very quick, you know, to do. And this will activate your brain to go and look for some alternatives. Luca, we're still live because I think it freezed. I'm not sure if we are live. Maybe that was a freezing news. Okay, so yeah, so I believe I have to finish this. So thank you so much for your attention. If you have any questions, just tag VIC, very important choice, in the comments, and I will be happy to reply. But again, look, you're here again.
I'm back.
I was just greeting the audience because I thought we were ended. Like, what happened?
No, sorry, my connection was upset with me. I don't know why.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm back. Yes.
Okay, but anyway, yes. So we just saw that. I was just greeting you and thanking you for this opportunity.
Okay, so yes, we have reached the end of this very interesting conversation. Also because we went through a lot of different things, from some generic aspects of the project, the European project wearable, then VIC, then some good practices, and then we finish with some practical advices about how to be more sustainable and more aware of our planet and the issues.
And this thing about polyester is not only because of the microplastics. We were talking about this before you disappeared. I don't know if you heard about this.
Yes.
Only for the microplastics thing, because there are some systems where you can actually contain this microplastic shedding. Okay, I will not go into this, but there are, of course, there's always a solution. But the thing is that hey guys, it's still coming from non-renewable resources. And even if we are recycling it from plastic bottles or whatever, which is a lot to go in. I mean, if it's needed, let's say for rain protection, you know, like synthetic fiber, there are some things for which it's needed. It's okay, it's better, it comes from recycled resources. But still, for all of the other garments which are not actually mandatory, you know, to be of course in synthetic fiber, that's also not good for our body, and we know that it's not good for the sweating regulation, and it gives this bad smell actually to everybody, and that's because it's not good for the body. So you know, they use it in the industry because of course it's convenient for them, for the price, and for a lot of other reasons, because it's easy for the coloring and for everything. But you need to be critical and ask yourself a little bit more what you really want for your body, for your health.
Wow, thank you very much, Sarah. I think it's a very good thing what you have just said. And I think that this conversation is over, but I would like to remind our listeners and viewers in general that they can send us some comments and they can put the comments directly in the post of this interview, so that they can we can reply, also you can reply to these questions that they can ask. Also, Sarah, I would say that if you want, you can put some documentaries, some materials that people can just go and search themselves in order to get like an education about this huge topic. And what else? I would like to thank you, Sarah, for being here today, because
yes,
it was
it was a pleasure.
Yes, for me too. I know that you were already greeting people, but now we are greeting people together. So thank you very much for being here, and thank you very much for all the people that made this interview possible here. Also our technological support. And thank you very much. Have a good evening to everyone, and stay tuned for future interviews and contents on these
yes. I mean, just remember, if you have questions, and I'd be glad to, me and my team, we will be glad to reply to the comments, but just make sure to tag us, otherwise we won't see that. So just add the tag or tag the Jonathan Cooperativa, and we will talk about it, so we can give you a precise reply.
Very good. Thank you again, everyone. Bye-bye. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.